And the thing is, what a lot of people lack, right? When you see a deficit in the budget, or when you see, the numbers in red, is because most of them, do you think could it be prevented if they would have the proper structure in place?
Yes, and mentally we have to rewire how we think about those funds, because again, it's not your money, it's the business's money.
Welcome back to Imparables. My name is Jose Miguel Taramona. I'm director of Ludus Mastery, and today we have episode number 4 of our season number 3, which is how to build your business from the scratch up. So what we're talking today, we're talking about today accounting, we're talking about today about taxes, we're talking about today legal structure, and how can you know for certain how to best apply everything that you can read on how to start a business and register your business. So before we start, please don't forget to share the content if it's important. Give a thumbs up if this is worth it and if it helps you. So let's start. Today we have an amazing guest that has been helping us here at Ludus Mastery for over 5 years. And she's going to be part of our podcast today. She is a business owner by profession. She's been 10 years working with accounting services. She's been working with one of the most prestigious companies in the world. One of them is Lockheed Martin. So, and she today is going to help us to understand all these legal issues, all the process that we have to implement in order to register a business and how to start it. So with you, the one and only Mrs. Mariel Avila.
Yay! Miss
Mariel
Avila.
How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm great.
How are you? How you been?
Fantastic.
How's been COVID? I heard you have COVID.
Twice. Twice.
That's good. That's a great way to look at it, right? It's like looking your back. All right, so Mariel, you've been doing this for so long, right? Like 10 years over, and working with accounting services, taxes, bookkeeping, working with people, working with many business owners. And let me ask you a question, and just for everybody to know, what is the most difficult thing that you see in business owners in regard to structure a business?
That's a great question. Owning a business is very challenging, and there's a lot of very boring stuff that has to be done to manage a business. Nobody likes to talk about accounting. Nobody likes to talk about taxes. But if you're serious about your business and you want it to last, these are very critical components. And they're not cheap. So everybody, when they start a business, has to start on their own, managing their financials, maybe through a QuickBooks or an accounting system like that. But it's very important.
Yes.
That's where people tend to slack, because they're like, oh, I have a business, money's coming in, it's my money. It's not. It's the business's money, and you need to manage it accordingly. You need to provide reporting if you have employees. And we can get into the details of all those things later, but it tends to be the accounting and any of the behind the scenes work that people tend to mess up. So like your business, fantastic, you focus on sales and training. That's what you should focus on.
Yeah.
When you're ready to, you should outsource the accounting, the management of your books and all that. Because you're not an expert in that, and you're not supposed to be.
And it is, I think, that's hard for business owners to actually think that they can manage everything just because the money comes to their account. And the thing is, what a lot of people lack, right? When you see a deficit in the budget, or when you see, the numbers in red, is because most of them, do you think could it be prevented if they would have the proper structure in place?
Yes, and mentally we have to rewire how we think about those funds, because again, it's not your money, it's the business's money. So it's difficult because when you're starting a business, I'm guilty of this, but when I started my business and decided to commit to that full time, that's all the income that's coming in. But I still have to structure my business as such that money coming in still belongs to the business. I get a salary, that's the money that I use to do whatever I need to do, pay my bills. But then the business money has to pay for the business. The business money should eventually cover my business expenses, cover my taxes, because I'm also part of the business.
Certainly.
But it's two separate entities. If you register everything correctly, you and your business are two different entities.
And many people, in Latin business owners, I think more than immigrant business owners, don't understand that. And we don't understand that part. That's what happened that I was guilty of, that part, it has to be given to an expert or to bring an expert, accountant, bookkeeper, etc. towards manage the accounting of the business. Because one of the things that I realized is what you say, then we surprise because we try to do everything and then we try to fix and those are expensive because it's a really tedious work.
Right.
It's like being in top of every single transaction coming out. And even before to getting deep into this, even with all this software that is out there, people need somebody, correct?
Yeah, well, and you brought up even, just Latinos starting out businesses, and we are a very industrious people and we want to work really hard. But again, there's so much back-end work that has to go into having a legal business. If you don't set up your business correctly, it can get expensive because the IRS will fine you. They don't care that you're a small mom and pop shop and that you're not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
They want their cut. You can be forced to shut down your business. And sometimes when you fix everything and register, you may be allowed to take it back up, or there might be a probation period during which you can't function anymore because you messed up. There's so many resources out there for starting business owners, but a lot of them are only for English-speaking business owners.
Certainly.
So it's difficult to fill in the gaps for Hispanic business owners who also have that language barrier because someone needs to let
Well, for
them
any
know.
business owner that doesn't
Well,
have...
maybe they don't even know that there's these
exactly.
resources, but there's a Small Business Administration and they offer a lot of free stuff online to guide you through how to set up the business. You can go to like howtostartanllc.com and that'll walk you through the steps of registering your business. But it can be a challenge because again, it's a lot of tedious work.
Exactly, it's a lot of numbers, a lot of details. That if you get it wrong, then it's harder to actually fix it and actually get it right. So let's go with and then this is a question that I always have. So what you got your name, you got your business. What is the first step?
So the first step is registering your business with your state. So I work in Maryland, and I can give you specifics for Maryland, but you will have to check with your state's tax authority to determine how they need you to file. In Maryland, you register with the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation, and you file a document called your Articles of Organization. And it sounds really fancy, but it's just a form saying how many employees are there, what does your business do, when did you start. And this is to file an LLC. If you want to be a corporation, then you file a certification of incorporation.
Which all of these documents are pretty much the same questions, right?
Correct.
It's just the type
Your
of business that you
name.
wanna
Correct.
get.
So you register with your state, right?
And they
Then-
must have one. And just to be clear, they must have one type of document. In Maryland is business. The Articles of Organization.
Right.
Right.
Your state might
But,
call it something else.
But actually, what they are asking is most likely a common denominator in all the questions.
Sure.
Right? Like,
Your
what is...
business name, what do you do, when did you start, do you have any employees? And you update that, you should be updating that annually because
Certainly.
hopefully your business is growing, and then when you do have employees, you report that. If you start buying property, office space, you report that. Then you file with the IRS to obtain an EIN, an employer identification number. And when you
What is
have
that? Is that like the Social Security for business?
that is like your ID number for your business, and that's what makes your business a separate entity from you. So you have your social, your business has its social, which is called an EIN.
Oh, great. That's a great question. Many people ask, and then because everybody asks you for that thing, right? Like everything you want to do, like it's like
You're
what is your
not an
idea?
official business until you have an EIN. So sometimes when people start a business and they're just functioning on their own and they haven't registered anything, they're considered a sole proprietorship, which is a fine way to start a business. You don't want to continue operating in that way because
you're liable,
if you
right?
don't have an EIN, You probably can't open a business bank account, which you need to be a business. You can't solicit business loans. And correct, you are liable, you are personally liable. Your name and your social go on all the paperwork relating to the business, which makes you personally liable if anything goes wrong. So if you tick me off as a client, I can just straight up sue you. Whereas if it's your business that I'm upset with and you just started out and all your business owns is this pen, you
Certainly.
can sue the business
And take the
for
pen
its asset, right?
for the asset, which is the pen. So in regards of those documents, that when somebody asks you, hey, how do I know? Like you ask for a loan or you go to a bank. What are those documents that you need actually to prove that your business is a legal business?
So honestly, for most places, all they'll want is your EIN letter. So after you've registered your business with your state and then you go to the IRS website to obtain an EIN, you can print your EIN letter immediately.
Okay.
And you actually want to do that because if you forget the second that you register and you're given an EIN, then you have to request for the IRS to mail it. The mailing system is not great right now. It could take up to 10 weeks to receive that hard copy letter. But that EIN letter is what you would take to the bank to open a business account. That's what you would provide to most anybody who asks you to confirm.
Even to get a credit card, I think, for the business.
Absolutely.
To get a loan
anything
or
in the business name will require that you show that.
So
EIN.
that document that you want is the EIN, right? EIN for
Employer identification number.
Employer identification number. That's great. That's awesome. So now, like, I have like a business. My business is doing great, right? I have my EIN. I have my bank accounts. I have all these. I'm selling a lot. Like everything is fine. Now I need more people.
Right.
So what's because something is like in where I come from, like you hire somebody, say, hey, come on, you want to actually work for me? Come on, I put in, I pay you how you pay. Now here,
Right.
it's a little more difficult, right?
Right.
And then many immigrants, and many Hispanic or many Latin, many immigrant business owners think that we can actually bring those behaviors of running business to here. So to me, it's like when you have employees, when you're ready to hire someone, or you hire more than one, right? Many people hire people to expand for demand instead of capacity.
Right.
We'll talk that in Ludus Master a lot. But my thing is like, what do I need, like to hire someone?
Sure.
What is,
So if you want to do what we typically do, which is like, hey, come work for me, blah blah blah, and I'll just pay you.
Yeah.
That's called having a contractor, right? From that person, you would still need their name, their social security number, and you have to track payments you make to them. The benefit there, when you have a contractor, a subcontractor, you don't pay their employer taxes. So you would pay them a fixed amount at the end of the month, let's say $2,500. You pay them that $2,500 in full. But you're tracking that because at the end of the year, you're going to give them a 1099 and you're going to report to the IRS with that 1099, hey, I hired Jose and I paid him 10 grand this year. Go ahead and figure out his tax situation with him.
Certainly.
Then the IRS expects you, Jose, to go and say, hey, Marielle paid me this much money and these are the taxes that I owe, I guess. You let me know, right? The legal way to hire an employee, there's a lot, in Maryland specifically, there's a lot of reporting, and for the IRS, there's some reporting. So first, you register to become an employer by getting your EIN.
yeah.
Then from your employee, you have to collect a Form I-9, which is the Employment Eligibility Verification Form.
Is that for Maryland? Is that for Maryland?
This is a federal requirement.
That's a federal requirement. Okay.
And that form lets you know that that person has a social that allows them to work as an employee in the
Wow,
US.
isn't that new?
So that's one.
Is that new or
No,
always been there?
that's always-
I didn't know.
that's
That's
always been
amazing.
there.
Who fills this up? Like
The employee.
Oh, the employee.
So
okay.
there's
okay.
an expectation that people are going to voluntarily provide information.
Yeah,
because
certainly.
this also helps them. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty, but like this is also how Social Security credits are tracked for employees.
Cool.
There's a certain amount you have to get every year to qualify for benefits when you retire, and it's
Okay.
all tracked by your social.
Okay, so
right?
that's the
there's
I-9.
the Form I-9. That's one form.
Okay, I-9. So then?
Then there's the Form W-4, and that's for you to track your employees' withholding.
Okay.
You know, so there's a single rate, there's a married rate. Do they want to pay more taxes throughout the year so that they don't have a tax bill at the end of the year? This is when you're setting up payroll.
So that's when you're setting up payroll. That was my question,
but you
right?
have to get your Form W-4. Then in Maryland, I'm not sure if this applies to other states, but in Maryland, there's a Maryland State Directory of New Hire. Within 20 days of hiring or rehiring somebody, you have to get that form from your employee and submit it to that registry.
What is that for?
That's to track anybody who owes child support.
Okay.
So that the state can then collect it.
Yeah. Isn't that a county? In many places, is that a county requirement?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not. I wish like when you go to a court, you go to a county court for the civil court is normally.
But this is a state thing.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's another thing as an employer
You
to
have
think
to-
about.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, you just set up the payroll taxes. So you as an employer will pay taxes. They will pay taxes.
So that's when you different than contractor. When you have an employee, it's like you figure out their taxes for them.
You pay half of their tax liability
Okay.
for being an employee, and then they pay half.
Okay.
And then the final component is
So in the end of the year, just for that, in the end of the year, you don't give it a W-9 like a contractor.
they get a W-2.
A W-2. So that's the main difference between W-9 and W-2. That you are an employee, 1099, sorry, and W-2.
Mm-hmm.
You get one is for the employees, right?
Correct.
When you are in payroll, and the other one is for contractual self-employees, etc.
Right, and so the contractor one just has one amount on it typically, and it's this is what we paid you.
Wow.
The employee one has this is what I paid you, this is what I paid for your taxes, this is what you paid for your taxes, reported to the IRS, and then they'll look at your whole situation and tell you what you owe. And then the final step to legally be able to hire people is to have workman's comp insurance.
Okay.
In case any of your employees get hurt on the job, this is to cover medical expenses.
Wow.
So if you want to be an employer, even if you just employ one person, these are all the things you have to keep in mind to legally.
As many people don't.
Folks. And it can add up. Honestly, workman's comp insurance doesn't have to be crazy expensive. There's a lot of companies you can even just look up online that will offer you quotes for, do you have 1 to 10 employees, then 50 to 100. So
Now going with that matter, insurance. So like I guess everybody also have to get insurance, right?
Well, as an employer, you have your workman's comp insurance. As you grow, obviously, if you're going to be
as a business,
right? As you grow as a business, if you're going to be having assets, you definitely want to get business insurance, which isn't horribly expensive. There are sophisticated policies. So, as an example, I work fully from home, but I handle a lot of sensitive information. So I've integrated into my business insurance hacker protection, software protection, data leak protection, because I can't
that's amazing.
leave myself open to maybe having people access my clients' information. And I pay like $70 a month.
Certainly. So it's not expensive. So many people don't know, and more when you're starting a business, how important it is to have insurance, and it's required for many things. The other day, I rent an office. I was renting an office, and they asked me for
a copy of your certificate.
Yeah, for a copy of the certificate of the insurance, and I was like, we just do training.
Well, and even if you, I wanted to be part of like a trade event where you have a table and stuff, and just give out information. And some of those big companies also want to see the certificate of insurance.
And we think it's like, oh my God, I don't need that. Many people is like, no, my business doesn't need require, but it's so important to cover for the future, right? Many people when they start a business don't look at, and I understand it's about I want to make money, but it's not about like how is this going to provide, how big it's going to get, and all the legal standards and all the accounting standards that we need to actually put in place.
Well, and all this is set up as a protection too, because depending on what your business is, like if you have a food truck, and your truck burns up or the truck stops functioning, you want to have some insurances in place to help you cover some of that expense and not fully come out of pocket. There's an expectation that yes, everything is on you and you have to foot the bill for everything. But if you set things up correctly, you should have a little protection offered to you.
Now, talking about the fees and fees of registering a business, fees of putting insurance, all those fees. So your suggestion is, and then I'm sure from different states, different fees. I'm sure the federal government have different fees than the states, and we have to pay all of them. But in regard to the fees, is like, what would you recommend to people if they don't pay if they don't do it? It will
get far more expensive if they don't do it, but there is a starting cost to starting a business aside from getting your materials and things you need for your business. In Maryland, for example, when you register an LLC, you have to pay the state I would say about $310. It's $300 and then $9 for a processing fee if you use a credit card. So you pay this $309 to set up your LLC, and then every year when you file your annual report to let the state know, hey, I bought property or I didn't buy property,
you have
they
to
don't even care if you made money. But when you let them know, hey, I'm still a business functioning in Maryland, you will always have to pay that $300
No,
fee.
in regards of that, paying that, because many people goes to an accountant and goes to a tax preparer, goes to a bank, and they say, okay, I want to set up can you help me setting up, right?
Right.
So how do we prevent, so those $300 in Maryland in this case, in Virginia I think it's 200 something, and in California I think it's another, it varies. Just to be clear, it's not for the person that is preparing or is preparing the paperwork or is doing it for you. It's actually for the state.
Correct.
Right?
And it can be very tedious to navigate the state website, but when you're starting out as a business, you have more time than money, and I would recommend that most people try to file themselves. But there are services that will help you with all of this process, right? So then you pay a fee to that person on top of the $300 to Maryland. But if you don't pay that, your business can fall into not good standing with the state, and it's on the state website, and when anybody goes to do a search on your business name, it will say not in good standing.
So it makes you look bad.
You don't want
that. It makes you look bad. So if I go and I say I want to see Marielle and then put not in good standing,
you're probably not going to hire me. You're she can't even keep her stuff together.
Yeah, that's great. So just to finish, what happens if we don't do this right?
Right. So again, if you don't register any of this, or you don't register your business correctly, you're considered a sole proprietor. You're putting yourself at huge risk for loss if somebody sues you, if anything happens, if your office were to burn down, right, and you don't have insurance, you're done with your business. So it's just cheaper and worth the time to go through the process of finding someone to help you or figuring out for yourself how to properly register your business so that you don't end up losing your business and owing a lot of money for people to fix it.
Exactly, right? Because it's a double pay to fix it, the penalties, and
correct.
In the end of the day, also the hassle, right? The time consuming, the stress that will bring you,
right?
And everything that will bring you. Now, and then bringing me back to one of the first questions that I asked you, Maria. If you will be starting a business again, and you will not be, in accounting services, well, one of your first steps, as soon as you have the money, will be to have your books control, have your accounting in place, and having somebody to actually taking care of that with you.
Right. So honestly, the very first step when you're thinking of having a business, I would do some Googles and look up the Small Business Administration for your state, because they probably have a lot of the guidance for free on how to properly register your business with the state. Then you can look for service providers who will help you with all of this. Obviously there's an expense, but if you're starting out and you want to try to do it on your own, I would always recommend going to the Small Business Administration first. And depending on what your business is, they might even have some grants and loans you can benefit from. That's where I would start. Because that's kind of like the American standard for how businesses should be run. Certainly. So start there.
That's amazing. Now, and to finish, what would you tell a new business owner that you already started a business, already have the name, already is making money, and this feels so out of the planet?
Right. So honestly, to any new business owner, I would just say, breathe. It's, everybody has amazing talents and gifts that they need to offer to the world, because only you can bring your unique spin. So I would definitely say breathe and take your time doing this initial research to properly register your business. Look up the SBA. Don't hesitate to reach out to somebody like me. There are many versions of me out there willing to help for a very nominal fee. I'm not going to gouge you, but this is the important stuff. The stuff we don't like to think about is the important stuff, because this is what will make sure your business lasts.
Yes, that was amazing. Thank you very much, Maria, for
You're
coming.
welcome.
I appreciate you're here with everybody. This was Imparables. We'll see you in the next episode. And don't forget to share this information to anybody that might be worth in this starting a business. So see you next.